I mean, I remember in my childhood, a famous movie lyric, huge, was the #1 song of that time, which went more or less along the following lines: "Tera पीछा ना छोड़ूंगा सोनिए, हाँ भेज दे चाहे जेल में प्यार की इस खेल में." So all the wrong signals, right? I'm not going to let you go. I shall follow you, even if they send me to jail, because love is a game and I'm playing that game, and this is part of the game I'm playing. This is the kind of logic that has always animated the stalker. A lot of people, in fact, have seen movies in which the stalker ends up marrying the heroine, right? So the guy starts off stalking her. He's initially unwelcome, then she melts and he marries her. He gets her at the end of the movie, kind of thing. So people think this is an acceptable form of courtship. And of course it's not. Already we have a culture in which, as we know from the Nirbhaya case and the whole awakening to the horrors of rape since then, we have a culture in which sexual violence has been condoned for too long, where too many people don't realize that one needs to respect certain boundaries, that no means no, that if you are pursuing a girl and she says, "Stop harassing me," she means it. Again, the movies have created this atmosphere that people think, no, she's supposed to say that. "Pyar ki is khel mein." So as part of the role playing is that she says, "Don't do it." Yeah. You persist, your persistence melts her heart and she gives in to you. That's the kind of whole logic that the movies, I think honestly our filmmakers and script writers and lyric writers also have to wake up and be responsible, have a sense of responsibility for what's happening in our culture.
So we've been running a campaign to try and do this. We've been sort of trying to get people to talk about the problems they face. And it's not just women, but men as well who've written in to us. Why was it that you decided to sort of get involved with this campaign, with our proposal, and sort of take it forward?
Well, first of all, I think that stalking is an underappreciated crime. In fact, people don't even realize it's a crime. They think it's a harmless activity, and it's not. People who stalk can often develop an unhealthy obsession, which can then translate into acts of violence when they're rejected. And we've heard of acid attacks, we've heard of knife attacks, we've heard of kidnappings, we've heard of all sorts of undesirable things that began as a so-called innocent stalking. So better to nip it in the bud before it gets to a stage where it can become more dangerous. Secondly, I think, frankly, we need to be a lot more open. I mean, human relationships that are healthy and normal are worth acknowledging. The more we try and suppress them, the more people have to behave in surreptitious ways, the more you get things like stalking and obsessive behavior and sexual assault, which is the next danger we have to worry about. So it seems to me that stalking, the campaign for stalking and talking about stalking is a very, very good beginning to preventing much worse things later, such as acts of violence by the stalkers and even worse, sexual assault and rape, which may have also begun with a stalking episode.
So one of the specific ways in which you've been a huge support in taking this forward is about trying to get stalking designated as non-bailable. What are the other problems you think the law has right now when it comes to stalking? Do you think that it's sufficient the way we're trying to deal with stalking and other crimes against women, or do you think that in the law itself that needs to change?
Well, it's a good question, because people think, you know, but what's the point? Is just more punishment? The truth is, there's a logic behind bail and no bail. I'm very much sympathetic to the idea that as far as possible it should be bail, not jail. But where the offense is one, where somebody is in danger of actually doing that for which he is being charged, then jail makes more sense than bail. In other words, if somebody is stalking you and you go to the judge and say, "Please, he's been stalking me, here's the evidence," and the judge says you're guilty of stalking, but the judge gives him bail, tomorrow he could not only stalk you again, but he could actually take further revenge on you for having gone to the judge or to the police. And the great danger with all of this is it's that the freedom given to the offender actually facilitates the offense and therefore vitiates the judgment. Therefore, it is far better to pop him in jail and let him cool off from his ardor and put an end to that. And that's the argument. You know, we've got all this business about cognizable and non-cognizable, bailable and non-bailable. And in every respect, there has to be a certain amount of common sense involved. The judge has to use reasonable standards. It should not be a situation where a hysterical person puts somebody in jail for not really having intended an offense of stalking. So there has to be, we are expecting these laws to be applied by judges using reasonable standards and common sense. So I don't want to give the impression that I'm riding roughshod over the rights of defendants. Innocent people may sometimes be charged, and they should be able to get a fair trial. But the Varnika Kundu case itself is one where there is absolutely no doubt about the circumstances, the dangerous way in which she was chased in a car by another car, with irresponsible and dangerous driving as well as everything else.
So the actual threat to life
and an actual threat to life. Now in those cases, if you give the guy bail, God knows what he'll do before he's next.
This was proposed back in 2013 when stalking was made part of the IPC. And at that time, because this was part of the Verma...
Justice Verma actually said it should be non-bailable.
Exactly. And yet, you then have the final version in the Act coming out to be a bailable version, which was because of questions raised by opposition members in 2013 that this will be misused. Do you think there's any sort of merit to this argument about misuse of these kind of laws?
Look, I think there is a certain segment of opinion. In those days, they were the opposition. Now they're in power. That is very reluctant to go along with what is seen as progressive feminist legislation. They're the ones, for example, who have made it impossible to make marital rape a criminal offense. We're about the only democracy in the world where essentially you're saying a man has a right to rape a woman. And so when some of us say, wait a minute, rape is not about sex, it's about violence, it's about coercion, it's about assault. You can't say that any human being, whether he's married to someone or not, has a right to assault her, to commit violence on her. And yet, no, this is the Hindu sacred institution of marriage. You cannot possibly rape your own wife, it's your right. I'm sorry, it's not. And eventually, I'm sure the courts and so on will wake up to the fact that this is absolutely troglodyte kind of legislation. But still, that's where we are. So the same thing I fear is that they think that, the stalker is this harmless fellow exercising his hormones out for a walk. I'm sorry, I just think that this kind of thinking will need to be challenged through the force of public opinion.
How do we take this conversation forward? How do we ensure that this doesn't just recede from public memory?
Well, look, public awareness is the thing. I mean, I must say that even after all the rousing of conscience after Nirbhaya, that I don't think there's been any significant dropping off in sexual assault cases. What has happened, however, is people are more aware of it. People are willing to face up to it. People are willing to report it. People are willing to discuss it. Through that, a change of mindset may still occur. That would be what will happen through your stalking campaign. If Quint goes ahead with stalking in a big way, keeps the issue alive, if it brings people, particularly girls who are being stalked, and it's not just girls, by the way. I've been stalked, so I can tell you that, men can be stalked as well, that when the person who's being stalked, who may not have all the protections that I have in terms of various shields around me that I can activate if people are harassing me, an average college-going girl or a young office worker woman is not able to activate that kind of protection. So if we have these kinds of situations where this person feels therefore emboldened to come up, speak for herself, put her point of view on Quint on social media, and if necessary file an FIR for a non-bailable offense of stalking, we might actually get 2 or 3 cases that will send a strong signal through society. But then it'll only send that signal if there's publicity for the cases. If people say, hey, this fellow thought he was doing something quote-unquote harmless, but what he was doing was wrong, and now he's in jail for it, so don't do anything, don't be tempted to do something like that. That would be the way forward. So I believe strongly in public awareness. I believe strongly in public education, that is ensuring that our youngsters, particularly boys, are given serious gender sensitivity lessons in school from an early age. And I believe in a changing of the mindset in society, which both of these things will contribute to.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tharoor. This has been an absolute pleasure, and we thank you so much once again for working with us on this.
Thank you, Vijay. Appreciate it.